Hi everyone, a very warm welcome back to MEC-TEC. As you can see, we are on the engine today on the old Reliant Regal, or Supervan I should say, and this is the block that we could not get that last stud out of when I was trying to get all the studs out. Now this has been sent away to the local engineering place and they have used a method called spark erosion and they've managed to get it out, thank God. So now we are left with a good, hopefully good, plain block. Obviously you saw them, I knocked the liners out of it last time. They're obviously fit for the bin, so they're obviously going to go. I've also, since the last video, got the camshaft bearings out. We've got a new set of these to go in as well. Now in hindsight, these ones probably didn't need replacing, but while I was in there I thought, you know what, I'm going to do them anyway. So let me just grab the camera and I'll just show you obviously the bare bones of the block, and then we can start hopefully getting this thing back together again and making an engine with any luck. Now bear in mind, this is the first time I've ever had an engine down to this extent. I've done a lot of engine work in the past, but never a full rebuild like this. So if there's anything I'm not doing quite right or whatever, please feel free to let me know, and obviously I'll take on all your advice during the rebuild. I'll grab the camera and I'll show you what we've got. Right, as you can see, this is our block. I've done a little bit of cleaning up inside here. Hopefully you can see in there it is nice and shiny around those edges where the new liners have got a seal into. They have a sealer called what's it called, Silco Flex I think it's called, Silco Set, sorry, this stuff, there you go, Silco Set 152. That goes around those beads. Now you can see there's a little bit of corrosion in that one now, but that should be nothing once the sealer's on there. This side again is absolutely fine, cleaned all those up nice. I've gone around some of the insides of the block as well just to clean up any gunk. You can see the silver areas that were a bit gunky in there, cleaned all those up. Now if I turn the block over, obviously this is all clean from when I did it before, and in here is where the camshaft bearings go. So you've got one there, one in the end and one in that end there. I've cleaned all these apertures up, as you can see they're all nice and clean and smooth, ready to knock the new bearings in, which are these ones over here. So we've got 3 new bearings to go in there. They're nice and new and shiny. We'll get those knocked in. Obviously you've got to make sure that these oil holes are in line with the holes in the block, because otherwise the camshaft will be starved of oil and obviously it will just heat up and then seize up and then game over. So that is going to be the first job. Whilst we've got nothing else in the engine, I want to get those bearings back in because they're the most fiddly job. Now the outside ones are not too bad obviously, but the inner middle one is a bit of a pain. So on this end of the engine as well, to show you quickly, there is a plug that goes in there, which I've got a new one coming off. That plug there, which sits in there like that. Obviously where I had to knock the bearings through, I had to knock the plug out as well. So I've actually got a stainless steel one of those coming, so that is in the post. But obviously that's not going to stop us from fitting the bearings for now. So let's I think I'm going to go for the middle bearing first, purely for the fact I don't want to obviously damage the outer ones by putting a rod through to knock the middle one in and risk damaging the new bearing. So I'm going to do the middle one first, see how we get on, and then get the outer 2 put in from there. Let's carry on. Rightio, as you would have seen from that bit of time lapse there, that was me bashing in the centre bearing, if you like. You can see, you can't really see it very well in there, but I've put the camshaft back in just to make sure that it rotates all right. Now obviously I haven't got the end bearings at the moment, so it's not very smooth, but what I wanted to do was put this collar on the end here behind the cog, which obviously holds it at the correct position once it's in, so it locks it into that little collar there. And with that pushed in and butted up against the block like that, I can then see in there where the bearing sits, and it sits exactly the same as the other block that I've got down there, which was obviously no good because I've obviously checked that was original bearings in that one. and that is sitting in exactly the right place. So I'm happy with that, so that's good. I can take this camshaft back out. We can then get the two end bearings in. Got to be careful taking this camshaft out because you can mark these bearings quite easily. Ask me how I know. Right, so that's the camshaft back out again. You can probably see the bearing a bit better in there now. That is in there nice. You can see how close the tolerances are to the edge of that opening for the valve pushrod lifter cup thing. Don't know the technical term for that, but you can see how close it is to the edge of it. It's exactly the same as the other block that I've got. This side's got a little bit more of a gap, but there we go. So that's how the other one is. The other thing I need to check quickly while we're here is I've been using a carb brush, which is one of these. I've just put that through the oil way to make sure that the oil hole hopefully lines up. You can see, with any luck, that's come through. I'll show you through there. You can see the brush. Hang on, let me grab hold of it and I'll move it up and down. You can see the brush, get the other ones out of the way, moving up and down inside the hole. So you can see that the hole does line up. You probably can't see it very well on camera, but you can see that the brush is coming through the hole, which means that that will obviously feed that bearing with oil. So that is great. So at least I know that that is in the correct position. Let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit and you might be able to see it better. There we go. You can just about see it in there, the hole at the top where my finger is. Hang on, just there. So that is in and lined up, so that is great. So as I say, now we can carry on, get the outer two bearings in, and then we can put the camshaft in and see if it runs nice and smooth. I'm going to get these two outer ones in and I'll come back to you. Right, that's the second bearing in, as you would have seen. Now I just wanted to quickly cut in and show you this end, which is the end with the cap on it, had actually got two holes in this end for the oil feed. It's got one at the top and one at the bottom. So obviously this one is a little bit more critical because you need to get both of them lined up at the same time. Now obviously the other one only had, although there's two holes in the bearing itself, there's actually only one hole in the block, which is that one there. So as you can see, that's the one we just put in on time lapse. Went in nice and easy, luckily. Bit of WD-40 does it the world of good. So yeah, I'm going to get the other one in, make sure those two holes are lined up on the other one. You can see I've got the other engine block sitting there, which I'm going by just as a reference point to see how far they've been knocked in. You can see on that one it's just inside the casting, and I've done this one exactly the same. I'm going to obviously do this one the same. I'll turn that one over and make sure that that one's the same as well. In fact, no, I can't turn that one over and make sure it's the same because it's still got the cap on the end of it, which I'll show you just so you can see what I mean. See there, it's got a cap on it. That's the rotten block, obviously, with a hole in it that we can't use. So I will assume that this one has to go flush, if not just inside the end, so that that cap can obviously be hammered home and seal nicely. So that is what I'm going to do. As long as those two holes line up, that should be top banana. So let's get this one in and I'll come back to you again. Rightio, as you can see it is the next day, sun's out. After a little bit of fettling, you can now see the camshaft is in there and it's spinning lovely and freely, no problems at all. So that is absolutely superb, quite pleased with that. That's nice and free, shouldn't have any problems hopefully. Obviously because I've not done a full engine review before, I don't know exactly how much play this should have in it. Well, not play, but how free it should spin, but I think that's more than acceptable the way that is now. So the next thing now is going to be to get those new liners in. So I'm going to get this camshaft taken back out. I'm going to clean the inside of the block up with some degreaser, Just some panel wipe I'm going to use just because I don't want to make it wet again. And then we can flip this over, clean the other side as well, and then we can get the liners put in. And obviously we need to use the sealer on those, which is why I need to degrease it to make sure that the sealer goes off and sticks. So I'm going to get that done and I'll come back to you in a minute. Rightio, as you can see there now, well, you can't really see from there, but I have cleaned all the inside of here with panel wipe. Made sure that it's obviously all nice and dry. Now obviously you've got to do the same with the liners. I've given that one a wipe around with some degreasers so far. I'm just going to actually do that again because I've had some grease on my hands and I don't want to contaminate it. This is just panel wipe that I'm using, same as what you use if you was doing body work or whatever, because obviously it's a degreaser, so it does a good job of getting rid of any traces of machine oil that may have been on these to protect them from when they were delivered or whatever, you know. So now you can see these have got a flat on one side of them. The flats go facing each other effectively on these bits here, so there's two flats obviously on each one, facing on those and facing on those. Now this sealer, I was going to put it around both sides, but it's quite difficult to get in there, so I don't want to put too much in. So the actual instructions say just to put it round this shoulder on the liner there. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get these, I'll do this one on camera and then I'll get the other ones done. So obviously it's going to be the same on every single one, so it's not going to be worth you watching me doing every single one. Basically I've just got a nozzle on the end of there, which it did have a like a twisty thing that came with this tube, but for some unknown reason it's gone walkies, as do most things in this garage, as you've probably worked out by now. So I'm just going to go with squeezing it and see how we get on. Yes, that's right. So basically we're going to put a brass bead right around there, and what this does is, well, I'm saying like I don't know what I'm talking about. What this, I'm assuming, does is seals the water jacket from the oil side of the engine, which obviously is vital because you don't want your oil and your water mixing. This is quite hard to squeeze, I'll be honest, as you can probably tell by the amount I'm shaking. But we will persevere. I'm being fairly liberal with it on here because obviously, as I say, I was going to do it on both sides, but because you can't get into the inside of the engine block very easily to get a decent continuous bead, this will be more than adequate. And these, I have test fitted these dry, by the way. They all fit in there no problem, and they all slide in nicely. Obviously I had to literally hammer the old ones out because they've been in there so long with corrosion and whatever else. There we go. Just slip that around there. Got a little bit of silicone from the previous. I used that nozzle for something else. There's a little bit of silicone in it just there when I get out. There we go. Yeah, these just slide in because I've cleaned all the apertures up now and they're all nice and shiny inside there. This should just drop in the hole, hopefully. So I'm trying to do it without touching that sealer on anything before it gets to where it should go. Got a little bit on the edge there, but and what I'm going to do, possibly after I've set these in here, is I'm going to make a couple of little plates just to go across that I can bolt down to make sure that these don't move. That is sitting in there lovely and flat and nice. Absolutely perfect. Superb. I don't know whether I've gone a bit OTT with the sealer, but I would much rather there be too much in there than not enough, because we don't want it obviously leaking. And as this is my first rodeo, I'm rebuilding an engine to this extent, I obviously don't want it to fail. So right, so that is the first one in, as you can see there, nice and easy and simple. I'm going to do the rest of them and then I'll come back to you. Right, there we go. That is all 4 liners in. No going back now. Let's hope that I've done it right. I mean, there's not a lot you can do wrong, but obviously, as I say, the first one I've ever done, so I haven't actually looked at it from underneath yet to see if there's any splurge through. No, don't know if there's any splurge through. You can see in the end there, where the water pump goes, obviously the sealer. So there is a little bit of splurge around, but nothing that's going to affect anything. Water can still get right round those liners. You can see there's a gap around them in there, and obviously the cooling will be superb compared to an original engine because there's no corrosion in there, and obviously I've cleaned it all out and the liners are new, so there's definitely no corrosion. When you compare to the old liners that I've got in here, the amount of thickness of corrosion and crud on those obviously wasn't going to cool it anywhere near as well. You can see there's barely any sealer on these ones as well. You can see a little bit of sealer on the edge of that one there, so that is a possible failure point if there's not enough sea left to obviously seal those to the oil. So pleased with that. Not really sure what I'm going to do next. I'll come back to you when I've decided, I guess, because I'm going to have to let these set off for a little while. As I said, I'm going to try and make some sort of way, well, either make some sort of way of holding these in or leave it so that they can set, so I know they won't move. May do that, in fact, because obviously I've got to put the pistons in from the top here. So one thing we can do while we're waiting for these to set is I'm going to take one of those piston rings off that I think are new, and I'm going to measure the clearance with it in the bore, and that will give us a good indication of how new and how worn they are, I should say. So that may be the next job. Let's carry on. Rightio, I've got one of the piston rings off, as you can see there. Needs a bit of a clean, but anyway, get me rag, hang on. And the clearance, according to the Haynes manual, the gap is 0.17 to 0.30 millimeters, which is 0.007 thou to 0.012 thou. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this fairly gently inside the liner there, and I'm going to use the piston upside down just to push it in a little way to make sure that it's level, so we know we're measuring it square. And there's a little gap just there, and that is the gap we're going to measure. So let's see what it measures. Let's have a look here, see what we got. 0.30 is the 0.03. So I'm just looking for the right. That don't seem right to me. There's a couple of different measurements in this manual. It says groove clearance, so is that the one I'm supposed to be going on? Which is 0.38 to 0.089. So quite a bigger gap, because this is quite a big gap in this. So I'm just looking. Let's try 0.5. 5 is still loose. 0.8. It says 0.89 on there. 0.8 just fits snug. So maybe these aren't quite as new as I thought. I don't know whether that's, having said that, 0.89 is obviously another bit on top. This is 0.8, so they do measure within spec with a little bit of drag, which is what you want. They don't look worn at all, they look brand new. I don't look like they've ever been run. I'm going to do a little bit more investigation into this, because obviously I've just read the manual of what I think I should be measuring as such, and I could be looking at the wrong figures. So let me check that out and I'll come back to you. Right, I'm in conversation with one of the parts suppliers regarding the piston rings for the engine. So we're going to carry on with some other jobs, obviously, while we're waiting for that. First thing I'm going to do is get these two engine plates cleaned. Well, I've already cleaned them up as far as degreased them all, got the old gaskets off and whatever else. I'm going to give them a rub down with the DA sander and get them painted. I've got some high temperature grey which I used on the Kawasaki Ninja series, if you saw that. Still got some of that left, so I'm going to give these a buzz back. And because these are obviously in direct contact with the engine, I'm going to use the high temperature stuff on them to make sure that it doesn't all just peel off straight away. Now I know these originally are black, but you know, the van's not original, so I'm not going to worry about that. It's just what it is. So they're going to go grey, which is going to be fine. I've got some high temperature lacquer to put over them as well, so that should make them look nice and tidy. So the only thing I have got to possibly try and sort out before I paint this one is it's supposed to have the captive nuts that go on here for the engine cotton reel mounts to bolt or to screw into, and they're missing. So I need to look at either I'll just put a nut on the top after and bolt them down, or I will source some UNF nuts, I think they're UNF, to obviously weld on there before I paint it. So I'm going to have a little look around and see what I've got before I do anything with that as far as painting, but it doesn't mean I can still get it prepped up and ready to go. This one I can just get it prepped up and painted because there's nothing captive in that, so that's fine. So that is the next job, I think, and then possibly after that we may look at getting the not the camshaft, the crankshaft in. We may have to get that back in the bottom of the engine, so at least that's in there and ready to go. I need to find, I've got a tube of proper engine building lube to go, obviously put in between the moving parts while it's being built, so I've got to find that too. So that's going to be another task, try and find that in my garage. Yeah, good luck with that. Right, let's get these rubbed down and I'll come back to you in a bit. Rightio, as you would have seen from that bit of time lapse, these are all now sanded back. This is the one that needs the two nuts welded on for the cotton reel mounts to go onto. Now you can probably hear the fan of the welder on in the background there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get, these are actually engine nuts, but they're the only ones I've got that are the right thread. I'm going to put that through. I'm just making sure I'm welding it on the right side. Pretty sure I am, yeah, it goes up underneath it, so I'm going to basically wind that onto the thread, so hopefully it will hold the nut in the right shape as such, and once you stalk the nut, because it'll have a thread inside it, I'm going to do that up, only finger tight, so it's roughly in the middle of that hole, and then I'm going to weld these on all the way around. These nuts are just big enough, luckily, and obviously with the weld on there, then that will make it absolutely fine. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tack these to start with, then I'll get them welded all the way around, and we should be okay to get this one and the other one painted. I'll come back to you in a sec. Rightio, as you would have seen there, I've got both of those nuts now welded on. Now they're not the prettiest welding in the world, I know, but they are nice and strong. I've tested the cotton reels in both of them with a bit of WD-40, the cotton reel mounts, and they fit fine. You can see the holes are nice and central, which is nice. Got those pretty good, so that's lovely jubbly. So that is now ready with the other one to be degreased and painted with, you can just see it over there, the grey high temperature paint and then the high temperature lacquer. So that is the next job. I'm going to get these cleaned up with a bit of the old panel wipe, hang them up on the line in the garage and get them painted. Let's carry on. Right, you would have seen me just cleaning this sump up on the time lapse there. Now, as you can see, there's nothing actually wrong with it as far as holes or anything like that, but it is quite beaten up. Now, the sump off the other engine that we've already stripped has got rust holes in it, so that's no good. This one's got dents all over it, and I'm not particularly happy with it. So, I went back to the third engine, as you can see, and I just gave the bottom side a clean up to see what sort of condition this one was in before I started stripping it off. And it does appear to be in a lot better condition, so I'm going to whip that sump off of that engine and we're going to use that one. I have got a new tool which I got for my birthday, which was a cordless electric ratchet, so that is going to make light work of this. I'm going to be the first time using it, so I'm going to get that, buzz these off, and then we can hopefully carry on with the refurb and get this sump refurb ready for our engine that we're building. Let's crack on. Right, this is the new ratchet in question, care of my dad and stepmum, thank you very much. This is the Sealy CP1202. As you can see, when you push the trigger, you've got a little battery indicator on there, tells you how much battery's in it, and it's also got a work light on there too. So hopefully this will make light work getting these undone. Oh, look at that. How did I ever live without one of these? This is absolutely superb. Certainly beats a manual ratchet, I tell you. And obviously you can use it as a manual ratchet as well. You can see, you can click it round like a normal one as well. So if you've got something that's really tight, you can break it loose and then obviously use the motor after to buzz them off. But obviously these aren't very tight, so yeah, this is definitely going to be a very welcome tool to the MEC-TEC garage. Save my hands. This makes it effortless. I'll still be on about the second bolt now if I was doing it with a manual one. That's unbelievable. Right, I'm going to carry on going around getting these undone. Shouldn't be too long, as long as I can find the bolts, because they're obviously underneath there and I can't see them. Where is it? Let's get these ones off. Definitely liking this. Oh, it's absolutely awesome. Little product review for you here, I guess. I mean, I've not used it, as you say, this is the first time, so if it carries on like this, it's going to be a very good tool. I've got a Sealy, I wanted a Sealy one because these batteries are actually interchangeable with a lot of their other tools as well, and they do a little mini DA polisher, which is great for things like headlights and things like that. So I may invest in one of those, which means I've only got to buy the actual body rather than the whole thing. This came with 2 batteries, so I've got a spare as well. So there you go, one sump. Absolutely superb. In fact, that strainer looks really good in comparison to the one off of my engine too, so I may have that off of there as well. There's no point in using the worst parts as such. You might as well use the best parts you've got, mightn't you? I've got them at my disposal. I know this engine block's not all that good, but the parts on it might be alright, so That is absolutely superb. I wonder what the rings are like on this. Cloth under there to catch that oil that's dripping out. Don't think I've ever had this one apart. Possibly I have, I can't remember now. Anyway, I'm going to get this sump cleaned up, same as we did with the other one, and then we'll have a better inspection of it and see, make sure that there's no pinholes in it or dents or marks. Get the best one we can for our engine so it looks nice and tidy, and then we can paint it grey, the same as the engine plates. Let's carry on. Rightio, I'm giving this sump a good clean. It does look in good condition. The only issue I have seen so far is the baffle inside is broken away on one side. Now, I have got another new tool that will fix this, which I got for the Puma. I mentioned it quite a few videos back. I actually bought a spot welder, and obviously this is, as you can see on that side, spot welded on with 2 spot welds either side. That's all that's let go. So in order to use that, this needs to be really clean. So I've obviously given it a clean with some brake cleaner, got all the oil and gunk out of it, but I need to carry on wire brushing it now to make sure that it's as clean as it can be on the outside so that the spot welder can do its thing. So that is going to be the next job. I'm going to carry on all the way around this with a wire brush in the grinder, get all the paint off, make sure it's all nice and clean, and I'll come back to you, and it will be the first time I've used a spot welder as well, so hopefully it will work all right. I'll come back to you in a bit. Right, this is the next new bit of kit in my arsenal. And I've had this for a little while now, as I say, because I bought it for the Puma to do the seal with, which we haven't done that yet, but I hadn't planned on repairing anything else before that, but obviously this is needed here, so we're going to give this a go. Now I've given this section a clean up on the sump with a what am I trying to say, belt sander, just to clean the metal up a little bit more. It's a little bit pitted. Now this has got, just show you on the side here, it's got settings which obviously you select the thickness of the metal, and then obviously you've got a time of how long you want it to hold the weld for. I've just got it on for default, so obviously let the machine do its thing, and just a flat weld, so obviously it will just do it one pulse and then switch off, I assume. I've not used this before, so this is all new to me. I'm hoping it's going to work. I'm not sure whether I've got to adjust the pressure on the jaws, because obviously you squeeze it together and it does that. So it just make a big spark just then. So let's get this on here and see what it does. As I say, I've not used this before, so it all goes wonky. You know why. Hopefully it'll work. Can you see that in the camera? Just about. I'm going to try and get this obviously straight if I can too. The problem I'm coming up against is hitting the side of the jaw is hitting the side of this, and not sitting where I want it to go. Not critical that this is bang on straight, because it wasn't actually bang on straight when I looked at it originally. It's pretty near on there, so let's see if we can. It might be easier to stand up and do this, hopefully. See what it does. Look at that, easy as that. Hopefully I haven't blown a hole in the side of the thing. May have to let the pressure off a little bit. You can see that spot weld there, and obviously the spot weld inside on that. In fact, I think it might have blown a hole in it because it's pitted. That's a shame. Yeah, this was my one worry with this, because this is quite pitted. So it may be that we have to go back to that sump again. Although this one's a lot more beaten up, I've given it a little bit more of a clean up, and you can see that the sides are nowhere near as pitted. See that in the light there. You can actually see the 2 spot welds there on that one as well. So maybe we have to go with this one and just put up with a few dents and bangs in it, which is unfortunate, but at least we know the spot welder works, because that's solid on there now. It's a shame, I think it's, I can just about see light through it. I think maybe I had the jaws set a little bit too tight obviously it's a learning curve, so I think you have to adjust it on that Allen key under the handle there, and it obviously doesn't squeeze it quite so tight, which means it won't sort of splurge the metal out, if that makes sense. But yeah, at least I know it works. It's a shame that it's done what it's done. I think that's probably partially due to the fact that the sump is too pitted, and I did have it in mind. That's why I started cleaning that other one up again, because if you look at this side's really quite pitted as well. So I think initially I had chosen the best sump or out of them all, which was that one over there. So I've effectively gone over old ground again, unfortunately, but here's what it is, I guess. It'll just be we'll use this one and move on, I guess. There's a few dents and dings in it, but might be able to knock a few of those out actually. I did actually knock one dent out on that one as well. There was a dent in the corner of it, that one there, which came out absolutely fine. So it may be that I can just go around and spend a bit of time on this one, get the dents knocked out of it as best as possible at least, and we'll just go with it, I think. Otherwise I'm going to be spending another 100 quid on a sump, which is not ideal. Right, I'll come back to you in a second. Right, little status update for you. I've got all the dents out as best I can on this sump. It's not by any stroke of imagination perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. Unfortunately, there was quite a deep gouge in the corner there, which, because I've hit it back out again, it has split it. So I'm going to weld that up. It's not rust as such, it's just where the metal's obviously flexed, and I've then flexed it back again. It didn't like it, so I'm going to run a little bit of weld over the top of that, probably both sides, just to make sure, and then I can ground the outside smooth so that it looks nice, and I'm going to leave a little bit on the inside to obviously make it so that it's nice and strong. So I'm going to get that done and I'll come back to you. Rightio, with that corner, where is it gone? There it is, welded up. That is all ground nice and smooth on the outside, and I've left the weld purposely on the inside to obviously give it a little bit of strength, and hopefully it won't leak. So that should do the job for that. I've just degreased this. I'm going to give it a coat of neutral rust, just to try and neutralise any of the rust that may be in those little pit marks on there, and then we can give it a coat of the high temperature grey and get it looking marvellous. Let's carry on. Right, as you would have seen, I put some neutral rust on the outside. That is pretty much dry now. But I was speaking to my mate Dan. He said, "Have you leak tested it?" I was like, "No." He said, "Do you think you should?" I was like, "Nah, it'll be all right." But then he got me thinking, is my welding up to scratch? So I've got it full of water at the moment. You can probably just see the reflection of it there, right up to the brim. Now it was this corner here that I welded up, so I had to obviously fill it right up to the brim, which is why it's tilted slightly, so that this end's really full and this end's not quite so full. So far so good. I've not had any leaks. It is dry as a bone, so hopefully this sump's going to be good to go. Obviously I've straightened it all out as well, so it looks a bit better now. So once it's got a nice coat of paint on it, assuming nothing leaks out of this, I don't think it will, because it's been in there probably about 5-6 minutes now and it's not moved at all, and I've felt around the outside and it's totally dry. So hopefully it should be all right. I'm going to leave this for another little while, and then if it's dry, then hopefully the next bit you'll see will be me painting it. Right then, that is going to be it for this episode on MEC-TEC. As you can see, the sump is now painted all over. It's had 3 coats of grey and 2 coats of lacquer. It's by no means perfect, but bear in mind we are working with a 40-year-old sump, so as long as it don't leak, I'm happy. So that's good. That's ready to go on, along with obviously the engine plates that we painted as well. So I don't think there's anything else we need to paint on the engine, which is good. The rest of it is going to stay as it is and go back together as it is, so that's absolutely superb. Little update on the piston rings. I've been speaking to one of the suppliers, and I've got a set of new piston rings coming. They're in the mail at the moment. Now there are two different sizes of piston rings in relation to the oil scraper. The thickness of the oil scraper is different on certain engines to others. There's only one size available. Now luckily one of the sets of pistons I've got are the right size, so we are going to have to do a little bit of swapping about, because the pistons that are the right size, the common rods, sorry, not the common rods, the gudgeon pins are very worn on them. So we're going to have to swap the good bottoms with the tops we need to match the rings, if that makes sense. It'll all become clear in the next video. But needless to say, we are going to have a new set of piston rings in there, so that is absolutely superb. The liners are set in the block now. I haven't had to bolt them down in any way. That they set within half an hour and they haven't moved any at all. So pretty happy with those. So I don't think I have to worry about bolting them down, because as long as we're careful, we put the pistons in. I think that'll be absolutely fine. If you do like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. I am getting up in the subscribers now. I think I'm up to 850 at the moment, so thank you very much everybody who's subscribed. I really do appreciate that. Gives me a little boost every time I see that number going up and up. And obviously ring the notification bell, that will tell you every time I upload a video. I have got Instagram, MEC_TEC1985, and I have got Facebook, MEC-TEC, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to. And all that's left for me to say is, if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I'll see you again next time. Cheers guys.